So I'm going on a relatively large trip soon, in this. And I'm going to be taking this pile of stuff with me. So now here's that intro that you all love so much. So as I've just mentioned, I'm going on a trip soon. Very soon. In 2 days' time. And I haven't actually packed anything. So I've decided that I'd earn some internet points by making a video about the things that I take when I go on a longer trip. Firstly is the most important preparation you need to make for your car. And with that out of the way, we're ready to go. So I use these weird little boxes for carrying lots of different things. And if you own tools, you'll understand that once you start buying a brand, you're pretty much stuck buying everything under the same brand, because otherwise it works out being very, very expensive. So I've chosen to use these Milwaukee pack-out boxes. And I think they're a bit good. So we'll start with this one. In that is all the metric-sized sockets I think I'm going to need, including some 1/4-inch drive bits and some pneumatic hose. Even though I don't really need it because this isn't the 76 and it doesn't have air lockers. In this one, I'm keeping things like screwdrivers, hammers, tape, and a few other random bits and bolts, some spare bushes, and that's about it in terms of tools. Now this one is full of useful things. So most of my stuff, as it has to be powered by Milwaukee, I have to keep a few spare batteries around. I even keep the USB charger. Got some lights, head torch, coffee things, a couple of knives, some bar oil, and some fuses. Now you know there's some next level design choices when your troopy fit out is designed around some Milwaukee pack-out boxes. Next up is stuff for cutting up other stuff. Let's talk about that. So let's start with the elephant in the room. This is what's called the Milwaukee hatchet. And as I've said in a previous video, it's not exactly normal because I've put an extended 10-inch bar on it. And this is the one it comes with. It's 6 inches. Now while that might intimidate some of you, as you can see it's not very good if you just use the standard one because it doesn't really do much. So if you're going to get one, definitely do this upgrade. Next up is an axe, because obviously you can't split wood with a chainsaw unless you're very dangerous. And then I bought a pretty useless hatchet, and let's be honest, it is pretty useless. The only thing I'd say it's good for is silencing small children. Food things. Because without food, you might die. So firstly, nothing here is desperately exciting. If you've watched my Troopy series, you'll know that I've got an oven in the car anyway, but I keep this little cooker as a backup. little triple burner, and it acts like a bloody flamethrower. Pretty cool, right? Next up is coffee. Part of any staple diet. The better the coffee maker thing, the better the coffee. So get a good one. This one isn't so good. I always keep a set of the Crap King's utensils handy because they're not actually so bad. As well as a prototype for the barbecue that I make and sell. Marvelous. Cleaning things. Cooking things. Bum wiping things. And that's about all for this chapter. Recovery stuff. So this isn't particularly exciting because you've seen this in many other videos many times, but let's go over it just for time's sake. Now, as we already know, the troop carrier doesn't have a winch, so most of this stuff is pretty redundant anyway, but I carry it in the event that a wrangler has to winch me out. So first up, standard snatch strap. Standard tree protector. A couple of cheap soft shackles, because paying for a brand name is a very silly thing to do. Some regular shackles. A snatch block. The small shovel for poos. A very rudimentary tyre repair kit. And that thing that makes funny noises when you deflate your tyres. So with that, I've almost run out of things. So obviously this is a first aid kit. I didn't think these were as useful as I did a few weeks ago, but since then I axed my kneecap, so I think these are quite a good thing to have. Next up is a spare fuel filter, because I'd rather carry a $35 spare than replace a fuel pump. Hammers for smashing, lights for seeing, and a strange battery-powered fan because it's quite good to have at night. So with all that stuff out of the way, it's time to talk about things that mean that your car will actually get to where you're trying to go. Maintenance. So obviously if you're traveling a relatively reasonable distance, you want to make it there in one piece. And reliably. And then you also want to make it home again. Now the most important thing for making sure this happens is making sure that your fluids are doing what they're supposed to. Now seeing as this car has done less than 1,000 kilometers since I changed every single fluid in the thing, I'm very sure it's going to be okay. But I'm going to show you how to check it anyway, because it'll extend the length of my video and give me more internet points. Starting with the transmission, and that includes gearbox, transfer case, and differentials. So unless you're driving something ridiculous and or pathetic, your gearbox, transfer case, and differentials are all going to fill the same way. You've got a bolt for filling and a bolt for emptying. And all you've got to do is take out that top fill hole, stick your finger in, and give it a wiggle. If it comes out covered in oil, good job, you've got oil. And if it doesn't, then you're either very neglectful or you've got other problems. Anyway, in this case, all the transmission checks out. Next on the list is the engine bay. And the most important thing to check is your coolant level. And this should be somewhere between the full and the empty mark. If it's well below the empty, you've got other problems and you should sort that out first. And if it's well above it, you've also got other problems, so you should also sort that out first. And aside from the little things like brake and clutch fluid, the next thing to check is your engine oil. And that's as easy as pull it out, use your favourite rag to wipe the end of it, and then shove it back in. And as you can see, the oil level should be somewhere between these 2 points, preferably on the top of it. The other thing to be wary about is that sometimes the dipstick tube has oil residue in it that might coat your dipstick and give you a false reading, so make sure you check both sides of it to see which one shows the lowest. And that's about it. Next on the list, filling the water tanks. This takes a while. So that just about summarizes all the things that you need and the things you need to do before you go on a trip. So now I'm going to go on my trip. And I'm not going to make a video about it, because I think making videos with other people around is very antisocial and weird. So that's about it. Happy New Year, motherfucker. I forgot a couple of things.